Lost in Random. The whole vibe of the game feels like something out of a Tim Burton movie. Dark, whimsical, and a little eerie in the best way possible. You're in this world where everything's controlled by a roll of the dice, and it's such a cool concept. The story follows this girl, Even, on a mission to save her sister, and you're guided by this living, walking dice named Dicey. Honestly, Dicey is adorable. He doesn't talk, but his little expressions and movements totally give him personality. It's like you've got this quirky, loyal sidekick helping you through this bizarre, unpredictable world. The world itself is broken up into these 6 different realms, each one based on the different sides of a dice. And I love how each area has its own distinct theme. One place might be all about war, while another is more peaceful, but with its own creepy twist. The variety keeps you on your toes, because you never know what kind of weird characters or challenges you're going to run into next. What I also love is that there's a lot of exploration and discovery. You're always finding new paths or hidden areas, and the world feels like this big, twisted maze. It's not just about going from point A to point B. You're encouraged to explore and take your time. The whole world feels so handcrafted. Like every corner has something weird or interesting to find. I think what I appreciate most about Lost in Random is how creative it is. The dice rolling, the card-based combat, the strange world, it's also original. Remnant 2. If you've ever thought, I want Dark Souls but with guns, this is literally the game for you. The best part is how they mix that tough, Souls-like gameplay with co-op. Like, you're dodging and weaving through boss fights with your friends. What I didn't expect was how varied the worlds are this time around. You're not just in some post-apocalyptic setting. You're hopping between dimensions, and each one feels so distinct. One second, you're in this creepy Gothic forest, and the next, you're in this futuristic sci-fi city battling weird robotic enemies. The variety keeps things feeling fresh. Like you're never sure what the game's gonna throw at you next. Speaking of enemies, oh man, they do not mess around in this game. Every time you enter a new area, you get this uneasy feeling like, okay, what's gonna try to kill me here? And the bosses? Don't even get me started. They're so creative and challenging. It's like a new puzzle every time you face one. You're constantly trying to figure out the patterns, the weak spots, and how to stay alive. It's tough, but in a way that makes you want to keep trying. You know that feeling when a boss wipes the floor with you for the 10th time, but you finally crack it, and you just feel like a god? That's what Remnant 2 is all about. I think what really hooked me, though, is the way the game encourages you to try different builds. You've got these archetypes, right? And each one changes how you approach combat. Like, do you want to be the tanky guy, soaking up hits, or the guy running around sniping from the back? You can switch it up mid-game, too. Kristalla, you're stepping into the paws of a badass anthropomorphic cat who's about to embark on a dangerous and magical journey. From the moment you start, you get to choose your own clan, each with its own unique attributes and abilities. It's not just a cosmetic choice. It actually impacts your gameplay. Whether you're going for a brute force melee build, a precise ranged approach, or leaning into magic, the game makes sure your playstyle feels personal and tailored. The customization here isn't overwhelming, but gives you enough freedom to feel like you're crafting a character that's entirely your own. Combat in Kristalla is where the game really shines. It's got that familiar, deliberate style where timing, positioning, and strategy are key. But what sets it apart is the way it blends agility with raw power. You're not just charging into battle. You're weaving in and out of enemy attacks, chaining combos, and using your environment to gain the upper hand. And don't get me started on the magic system. It's not just there as a backup option. It's woven into the gameplay in a way that feels essential and rewarding. What's really cool about Kristalla is how much it rewards exploration. This isn't the kind of game where you stick to the beaten path and call it a day. You're going to want to poke around every corner, investigate every ruin, and dive headfirst into the unknown. There's this constant feeling that something incredible is just waiting to be discovered, whether it's a new ability, a hidden challenge, or just some fascinating bit of lore that deepens your connection to the world. Next we have Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. It's like stepping into the ultimate car enthusiast dream. It's set in an open-world recreation of Hong Kong Island, and the attention to detail is jaw-dropping. Everything about it screams freedom and choice, and that's the heartbeat of the game. The driving experience is where the magic happens. Every car feels unique, and the physics are finely tuned to keep you hooked. It's not arcade style, but it's not overly punishing either. The balance hits that sweet spot where the thrill of high-speed racing merges seamlessly with a sense of control. Whether you're drifting around tight corners or gunning it on a straightaway, the connection between you, the car, and the road is undeniable. The customization in Solar Crown is downright addictive. It's not just about slapping a new coat of paint on your car. It's about crafting a machine that feels like an extension of your personality, tuning the engine, tweaking suspension settings, and adding visual flair all play into the game's focus on making the experience yours. The community aspect is a huge part of what makes Solar Crown special. The game is built around two factions, the Streets and the Sharps, each with its own vibe, philosophy, and style. The rivalry isn't just a backdrop. It's woven into everything, from the events you take part in to the way you approach your progression. Test Drive, Unlimited Solar Crown, brings the thrill of the open road with unmatched style. Maneater. Instead of being the hero saving the day or the anti-hero causing chaos, you're a shark. Yes, an actual shark. But not just any shark. Maneater lets you be the most fearsome apex predator in the ocean. The premise is as ridiculous as it is brilliant. You're swimming around as a bull shark, eating, evolving, and tearing through anything that gets in your way. But here's the kicker. It's not just about mindless chomping, although there's plenty of that, and it's incredibly satisfying. The game has this clever, almost satirical tone that pokes fun at itself and the world you're exploring. You start as a small, scrappy shark pup, but as you chow down on fish, humans, and other sea creatures, you grow. And I don't just mean you get bigger. Oh no, this game takes evolution to a whole new level. As you progress, you unlock upgrades that transform you into an absolute aquatic powerhouse. Want electrified jaws? Done. Armor plating? Sure, why not? By the time you're fully upgraded, you feel like a living, breathing oceanic weapon. What's really cool is how the game combines exploration and combat. The world of Maneater is divided into different regions, each with its own challenges and unique wildlife. One moment you're gliding through serene waters, and the next you're in a heated battle with an alligator or a group of aggressive humans who aren't too thrilled about a giant shark crashing their beach party. So, if you're in the mood for a game that lets you unleash your inner predator and wreak havoc in the most entertaining way possible. Wild Hearts. If you're into action-packed gameplay with a side of creativity, this game has so much to offer. One of the standout features of Wild Hearts is how it blends fast-paced action with thoughtful planning. The combat is exhilarating. It's all about timing, movement, and making the most of your arsenal. But it's not just about swinging weapons around. There's a real depth here, with mechanics that reward skill and experimentation. The more you dive into the systems, the more rewarding it gets. Speaking of mechanics, the game gives you some seriously cool tools to work with. Without giving too much away, let's just say you've got plenty of options for creativity during battles. Whether you're crafting clever solutions on the fly, or using unique gadgets to gain the upper hand, it's all about thinking outside the box. These tools aren't just gimmicks, they're integral to how you play, and they add a fresh layer of strategy to every encounter. The gameplay loop in Wild Hearts is super satisfying. It strikes that perfect balance between challenge and reward, so you always feel like you're making progress, even when things get tough. There's a sense of accomplishment when you figure out the best way to tackle a tough enemy or complete a tricky task. And the game does a great job of giving you new challenges to keep things exciting, so it never feels like you're just going through the motions. Another thing that really stands out is how fluid and responsive the controls feel. Every action, from dodging to attacking to using your tools, feels natural and precise. Manor Lords. It's got a perfect mix of city building, real-time strategy, and historical vibes that make you feel like you've been dropped into the Middle Ages. It's not just about plopping down buildings and calling it a day. You're designing a real, functioning town that has to deal with things like resource management, seasonal changes, and the happiness of your villagers. And then there's the economy. Balancing your resources is a challenge, but it's the good kind of challenge. You'll be growing crops, trading goods, and figuring out how to survive through the winter without your people starving. It feels incredibly satisfying when everything clicks, and you see your little village thriving with bustling markets and happy villagers. It's like, look at my kingdom, I did that. But wait, there's more. Combat. Oh yeah, Manor Lords isn't just about peaceful town building. There's also real-time strategy for those of us who want to flex our military might. The battles feel epic, with soldiers marching in formation, archers raining arrows, and cavalry charging in for that dramatic finish. It's not overly complicated, but it's strategic enough to keep you on your toes. Plus, the scale of it all feels just right. You're not commanding thousands of units, but it's big enough to feel like a real medieval skirmish. One thing I absolutely love about this game is how much freedom it gives you. Want to focus on being a benevolent lord who builds a prosperous town and trades with neighboring regions? Go for it. Want to be a conqueror, expanding your territory and crushing anyone who gets in your way? Mass Effect Andromeda. When this game launched, it got a ton of hate, and a lot of it had to do with the infamous facial animations. I mean, people were making memes about the character's weird robotic expressions within hours of release. It was hard not to laugh, but at the same time, it took away from what the game was trying to do. On top of that, there were bugs. A lot of bugs. Some people felt the world was a bit empty compared to the richness of the original trilogy, and that really disappointed hardcore fans of the series. You know, expectations were sky high coming off the original Mass Effect trilogy, which is beloved for its deep story, memorable characters, and complex choices. Andromeda had a tough act to follow, and when it didn't hit the same highs, fans let their disappointment show. But here's the thing. If you step back and give Andromeda a fair shot, there's actually a lot to like. It's got this huge open-world feel with new planets to explore and a brand new galaxy to discover. The combat is actually one of the highlights, really fluid and fun. If you liked the action in the original games but wanted more flexibility, Andromeda definitely delivers on that front. Plus, the exploration aspect is pretty cool. Driving around in the Nomad, checking out alien worlds, and slowly unraveling the mysteries of the Andromeda galaxy can be really immersive. It may not have hit the emotional highs of the earlier games, but it's not without its charm. It's also worth noting that BioWare fixed a lot of the early issues with patches. Death in the Water 2. In this game, you're diving into the vast unknown, and trust me, the unknown doesn't stay unknown for long. The waters are teeming with life, some of it stunning, and some of it, well, let's just say it's better off left unseen. But seeing is part of the game, and so is fighting. You'll have to navigate through the murky depths, armed with your wits and whatever equipment you can get your hands on. What's unique about this game is how it blends exploration with danger. It's not just about floating around and admiring the underwater world. It's about constantly staying on edge. The ocean feels alive, like it's watching you, waiting for you to make one wrong move. It's all about balancing the thrill of discovery with the constant tension of what might be lurking just out of sight. Imagine trying to fend off a predator while underwater. Everything is slower, heavier, and more deliberate. It's not like battling on land. You have to adapt to the environment, anticipate your enemies, and keep your cool when things go south. And they will go south often, but that's what makes it so exciting. Every encounter feels like a fight for survival, and every victory feels hard-earned. The pacing of the game is something special too. You'll find yourself exploring serene, almost tranquil areas, only to have the peace shattered by something terrifying. It's like the game knows exactly when to ease you into a false sense of security and when to pull the rug out from under you. That unpredictability keeps you hooked. High on life. This is not your average shooter, not even close. The big hook here is the talking guns. They've got personality, sass, and opinions. They'll comment on everything you're doing, sometimes cheering you on, sometimes calling you out for being, let's say, less than stellar at aiming. It's like having a running commentary, but instead of a silent protagonist, your sidekicks are straight up roasting you or dropping the most bizarre one-liners. And the humor? Oh man, it's unapologetically ridiculous. This game was cooked up by the minds behind Rick and Morty, and it shows. You've got weird alien creatures, crazy scenarios, and a sense of humor that swings wildly between sharp satire and goofy chaos. Now, you might be wondering, does all that comedy get in the way of the gameplay? Not at all. At its core, High on Life is still a solid first-person shooter with smooth mechanics and satisfying gunplay. The weapons each have unique abilities that keep combat fresh and exciting. Whether you're bouncing around like a maniac or pulling off precise shots, the game gives you the tools to feel like you're doing something impressive, even when the dialogue insists on making you laugh about it. What makes High on Life stand out is how fully committed it is to being absurd. It's not just about shooting bad guys. It's about doing it in a way that makes you laugh so hard you almost forget you're actually fighting for something. You'll stumble into moments where you'll pause and think, wait, did that just happen? And yeah, it did. The game thrives on unpredictability. War of Rights. It's a Civil War FPS that focuses heavily on teamwork and strategy. At first, I thought it would just be another typical shooter, but the attention to detail is something else. Like, you don't just run around with a gun. You're part of a company, and you actually need to coordinate with your team to survive. You're not a lone wolf here. It's almost like being on an actual battlefield, with that chaos and intensity all around you. The first time I joined a battle, I was a little overwhelmed, to be honest. You've got dozens of players on each side, all in uniform, marching in formation, and you can hear officers barking out orders. It's kind of amazing how much that atmosphere pulls you in. You're really part of something bigger, which you don't get in most games. And speaking of orders, this game really forces you to think before you act. There's no sprinting across the map and gunning people down here. You have to stick with your squad, follow orders, and time your moves carefully. It's like a slower pace, but in the best way possible. It makes every decision count. One thing I love is that you're encouraged to communicate. And I'm talking real communication, not just trash talk. You actually need to speak to your fellow soldiers to succeed. It reminds me of those old school LAN parties where you had to talk to each other to win. I've met some cool people just from having to strategize mid-battle. I also appreciate how historically accurate everything is. The developers really did their homework. The uniforms, the weapons, the way the battles play out, it's like a playable history lesson. Palworld. The game feels like a wild fusion of creativity, survival, and pure chaotic fun. It's a game that takes familiar ideas and flips them on their head, crafting a unique experience where you're building, battling, and bonding with these quirky creatures called pals. It's not just about collecting them. It's about finding clever ways to integrate them into every aspect of your journey. The core of the game revolves around teaming up with pals to survive and thrive in a sprawling open world. Each pal brings something unique to the table, whether it's combat skills, crafting abilities, or the sheer joy of watching them help with everyday tasks. They're not just companions. They're essential to how you tackle the challenges around you. From farming to fort building to full-blown firefights, pals aren't just along for the ride. They're active participants in everything you do. Combat is where the game gets delightfully chaotic. Pals are more than just support. They're part of the action. Whether you're wielding weapons alongside them or unleashing their special abilities, battles feel dynamic and unpredictable. The way the game combines ranged and melee mechanics with creature-based abilities adds a fresh twist to every encounter. Enemies don't feel like simple obstacles. They're opportunities to strategize and experiment with your team of pals. Palworld is a delightful mix of whimsy and survival, and it's worth every penny for the unique experience it offers. Echo. This is one of those games that feels like it was crafted in some strange secret lab where the only rule was, let's make something nobody's ever seen before. Imagine you're in this opulent, endless palace. Like, picture a space-age Versailles. It's pristine, beautiful, but also eerie. You're playing as N, someone who's just arrived in this surreal, otherworldly structure. But the kicker? The palace learns from you. Yeah, it watches what you do, takes notes, and then uses your own tactics against you. Think about that for a second. Let me give you an example. Say you're sneaking around, trying to avoid being spotted, and you decide to play it cool. Stick to the shadows, avoid unnecessary risks. Well, the palace is watching. It sees you being all stealthy and thinks, sneaking seems like a good idea. Now, suddenly, the enemies start sneaking around too. But maybe you're more of a run-and-gun type. If you sprint and blast your way through, guess what? The palace learns that too. And now you're dealing with enemies that sprint and blast you. The entire gameplay revolves around this dynamic, and it's genius. Every few minutes, the palace resets, like hitting a giant refresh button, and the rules of engagement completely change. Maybe it's aggressive now, maybe it's passive. It keeps you constantly on your toes, second-guessing every single move you make. What's really cool is how it makes you question your own strategies. It's like the game is saying, okay, you can do whatever you want, but are you sure you're ready to face yourself? Superliminal, a game that's as much a brain workout as it is pure, unfiltered fun. If you've ever looked at a shadow and thought, what if I could just grab that and turn it into something real? Then this game is about to blow your mind. The mechanics here are all about how you see the world. Literally, objects change size based on how you're looking at them. That tiny little cube on the table? Pick it up, look at it from a different angle, and suddenly it's as big as a house. It's a game that constantly challenges the way you think about space, size, and what's possible. The puzzles in Superliminal are an absolute delight. Each one feels like it's designed to make you stop and go, wait, what? But in the best way. There's no obvious do this, then that solution here. Instead, the game encourages you to experiment, mess around, and see what happens when you look at the world differently. It's a playground for your imagination, where the most creative and unexpected solutions are often the correct ones. What's really cool is how intuitive everything feels. The mechanics might sound complex, but the game does an amazing job of letting you figure it out naturally. There's no heavy-handed tutorial, no hand-holding. Instead, it gives you tools and trusts you to explore, learn, and adapt. And when you solve a puzzle that seemed impossible at first glance, the sense of accomplishment is unmatched. Now, here's the thing about Superliminal. It's not just about solving puzzles. It's about the journey of discovery. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. If you've played the original, you already know how special it is. But this remake? It somehow takes that emotional journey and makes it even more impactful. The core of the game remains the same. You're controlling two brothers on a quest to save their father. But the visual and gameplay enhancements in the remake make it feel even more immersive and engaging. The puzzles and challenges you face along the way are simple, but satisfying. Most of them revolve around using the brothers' different abilities. The older brother is stronger, while the younger one is more agile. But what makes them interesting is how they force you to think about the brothers as a team. One of the standout features of Brothers is its unique control scheme, where you control both brothers simultaneously using one controller. It sounds tricky at first, but you quickly get the hang of it, and it's such a clever way to tell this story. The older brother is controlled with one thumbstick, and the younger brother with the other, which creates this sense of connection between them. You're not just watching their bond. You're physically controlling it, which makes the emotional beats hit even harder. What I love about this game is how it tells its story without using any real dialogue. Everything is conveyed through body language, facial expressions, and the way the brothers interact with the world. It's so effective, and it proves that you don't need tons of exposition to tell a deeply emotional story. You're not just playing a game, you're living through these brothers' journey. Scum. What sets Scum apart from other survival games is how detailed it is. And I mean detailed. This isn't just about finding food and water to stay alive. No, Scum dives deep, literally, into your character's metabolism. You need to manage your energy, protein, hydration, and even vitamins. Yep, you might actually learn a bit about nutrition while playing. It sounds overwhelming, but it's surprisingly fun. You're not just playing a character, you're micromanaging a human being, and it's oddly satisfying to see everything come together when you're doing well. Of course, it wouldn't be a survival game without threats, right? The island is home to all sorts of challenges, from aggressive wildlife to freaky zombie-like creatures. And let's not forget other players. If you're playing on a multiplayer server, you'll need to keep an eye out for those who might see you as an easy target. But here's the thing. Scum gives you the tools to adapt to these dangers. You can focus on stealth and avoid conflict altogether, or you can gear up and take on anything, or anyone that stands in your way. And then there's the crafting. This game is a survivalist's dream when it comes to creating tools, weapons, and even shelter. Whether you're whipping up a campfire, piecing together weapons from scraps, or making improvised gear, crafting in Scum feels practical and rewarding. Every item you make feels like an accomplishment, especially when you've scavenged for hours to find just the right materials. The combat is dynamic and tense. Bellwright, a game that throws you into a medieval sandbox and says, here's a world. What are you going to do with it? Whether you're building up a settlement, rallying troops for battle, or managing resources like the lord of your very own kingdom, it's all about blending strategy, exploration, and a healthy dose of medieval chaos. At its heart, Bellwright is a game of duality. On one side, you're building, crafting structures, managing resources, and ensuring your people are thriving. This isn't some simple plop down a building and move on mechanic. You've got to think about placement, efficiency, and what your settlement actually needs to survive. Do you focus on fortifications to keep your enemies out, or expand your farms to feed a growing population? Every decision feels important because it shapes the foundation of your growing kingdom. And then there's the other side of the coin, combat. This isn't just you swinging a sword around, though you can absolutely do that. It's about leading your forces into battle, strategizing on the fly, and figuring out how to outmaneuver enemies that want to knock you and your people down a peg. Battles in Bellwright have this weight to them, like every swing of the sword and every arrow loosed is part of a larger plan, or, in some cases, a desperate attempt to keep your settlement from crumbling under pressure. What makes Bellwright really stand out is how it gives you freedom. You're not locked into a single playstyle or path. You can be the hands-on leader, crafting and building everything yourself. Usant, a game that's all about the climb, literally. This isn't your typical action-packed adventure or sprawling open-world game. Instead, Jusant takes you on a vertical journey, putting the focus squarely on the simple yet profound act of scaling a massive, mysterious tower. Sounds straightforward? Sure, but there's a certain magic in how this game turns something so seemingly simple into such an engaging experience. You control each movement, each grip, and each leap, which makes every ascent feel like a tiny victory. The way the mechanics work, it's almost like a puzzle, where you're constantly figuring out the best route, testing your limits, and adapting to the challenges the climb throws at you. What sets Usant apart is how immersive the climbing itself feels. You're not just scaling some generic wall. You're interacting with the environment, discovering little details, and feeling connected to the act of climbing in a way that's surprisingly meditative. It's about pacing yourself, finding your rhythm, and really soaking in the experience as you ascend higher and higher. And let's not forget about your little companion. You're not climbing alone. There's a quirky creature by your side who adds a touch of charm and personality to the whole journey. It's not just there for show either. This little buddy has a knack for helping you out in ways that feel intuitive and clever, adding an extra layer to the gameplay. Exploration is another key part of Usant. Mortal Shell. If you've ever enjoyed games that make you think before you act, this one is for you. It's all about precision, timing, and strategy. Charging headfirst into a fight, not gonna work. You've got to study your enemies, figure out their patterns, and choose the right moment to strike. It's like a dance where every move counts, and when you nail it, it feels so rewarding. The combat system is where Mortal Shell really shines. It's deliberate and methodical, with a weightiness that makes every action feel significant. It's not about mashing buttons. It's about committing to your decisions, swinging your weapon, dodging, blocking. Each move feels impactful, and that's what makes the fights so intense. And then there's the hardening mechanic. This is such a cool feature that sets the game apart. At any moment, you can turn your character to stone to absorb a hit. It sounds simple, but in practice, it adds a whole new layer to the combat. Timing is everything. Do you harden mid-attack to catch your opponent off guard? Use it defensively to avoid a crushing blow? It's such a clever mechanic that keeps every battle dynamic and exciting. The progression system also deserves some love. It's not just about leveling up and getting stronger. It's about understanding the tools the game gives you and learning how to use them effectively. Exploration is another standout aspect of Mortal Shell. The game rewards curiosity in a big way. There are hidden paths, secrets to uncover, and moments that make you feel like a genius for figuring things out. The Outer Worlds. While it didn't win Game of the Year in 2019, it absolutely deserved to be in the conversation. This was Obsidian showing everyone they still had that RPG magic, delivering a game with tight writing, a quirky sense of humor, and a whole galaxy's worth of exploration and moral dilemmas. It was a breath of fresh air in a genre dominated by massive open-world RPGs, proving that sometimes less is more when it's done right. The world building was top-notch. Set in a retro-futuristic galaxy ruled by megacorporations, the game gave you a ton of freedom to explore different planets, each with its own distinct vibe and politics. The whole corporation's run everything setting was dripping with satire, and it really hit home, especially with the dialogue options. You could choose to be a hero, a corporate shill, or just a chaotic wildcard, and the game would react accordingly. Every decision felt meaningful, and there were so many different ways to play through the story. The writing was easily one of the game's strongest points. Whether it was the witty banter with your companions, or the moral dilemmas you faced with every mission, the dialogue was smart and sharp. The characters, like Parvati, who became an instant fan favorite, were charming and well written. They added a lot of heart to the otherwise cynical tone of the game, and their personal side quest gave the game an emotional core. One controversy was that, despite its great writing and humor, the game's combat wasn't exactly its strongest feature. Code Vein. You're thrown into a post-apocalyptic world where humanity has taken a back seat, and beings called revenants, basically superpowered humans with a thirst for blood, are struggling to keep it together. The kicker? You're one of them. That means you've got abilities and strengths that make you feel like an absolute powerhouse. But there's always a price to pay. This constant balancing act between unleashing your potential and managing your limits is one of the most intriguing aspects of the game. What really sets Code Vein apart is how much control it gives you. This is not a one-size-fits-all experience. From the moment you start, you're shaping your character to be exactly who you want them to be. Want to wield massive swords and crush enemies with brute force? Go for it. Prefer a faster, more agile approach? You can do that too. And it doesn't stop at weapons. Your blood code, basically your character's skill set, lets you completely change your playstyle on the fly. You're not locked into one way of playing, which is great because it encourages experimentation. Every fight becomes an opportunity to try something new, to push your limits, and to see what works best. Combat in Code Vein is where the magic happens. It's not just about mashing buttons and hoping for the best. No, this game wants you to think, to strategize. Every enemy feels like a challenge, but not in an unfair way. Timing, positioning, and knowing when to go all in, or when to back off, are key. Tell me why. This game isn't just about playing. It's about feeling, thinking, and maybe even questioning a few things along the way. It's an adventure that leans heavily into its narrative and character-driven approach. So, if you're into games that make you slow down and really experience something, this one's got your name all over it. This game dives headfirst into how those memories are perceived, shared, and sometimes even challenged. You'll spend your time exploring moments from the past and deciding how they shape the present. And trust me, that's where the magic of this game lies. Gameplay-wise, Tell Me Why doesn't throw you into the chaos of action-packed sequences or over-the-top mechanics. Instead, it focuses on thoughtful exploration and meaningful choices. You'll interact with objects, engage in conversations, and uncover pieces of the story as you go. It's all about taking your time and letting the narrative unfold at its own pace. Every choice you make feels significant, and the game subtly reminds you that even the smallest decisions can ripple into something bigger. One of the standout features of Tell Me Why is how it treats its relationships. The bond between the characters is central to everything, and the way the game allows you to navigate that bond is both engaging and heartfelt. You're not just watching a relationship evolve. You're actively shaping it through your actions and decisions. It's like being handed the reins to something deeply personal and seeing where your choices take it. Inside. This game is proof that you don't need a massive open world or flashy graphics to create a totally gripping experience. It's all about atmosphere, mystery, and those quiet, chilling moments that get under your skin. So you start as this little boy, and there's no introduction, no backstory, no clear direction. You're just there in this dark, almost eerie world. Right off the bat, you know something's up, but you don't know what or why. And that's part of what makes it so good. There's this mystery that drives you to keep moving forward. The game never tells you what to do or how to feel. It's all up to you to interpret what's going on, which makes it feel really personal. It's like a silent story where you piece together the narrative. Now, the puzzles and inside are fantastic. They're not the kind of puzzles that feel like random obstacles. They're more like these clever challenges that are woven into the world itself. Everything feels like it belongs there, which adds to the immersion. The game wants you to think, to take your time, and solve things in a way that feels natural. And when you do figure out a tricky part, it's super satisfying. The puzzles aren't so hard that they take you out of the experience, but they're definitely engaging enough to keep you on your toes. And let me just say, Inside doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a relatively short game, but that's part of what makes it so impactful. It's tightly crafted, with no filler, no fluff, just pure atmosphere and storytelling. You can play through it in a few hours, but those hours are filled with a constant sense of awe and unease. Ad Infinitum. It's a psychological horror game that takes you to some pretty dark places, but in a way that's absolutely fascinating. What's unique about Ad Infinitum is that it doesn't just rely on jump scares or cheap thrills. This game builds tension in a slow burn way that feels like it's crawling under your skin. Every corner you turn, every door you open, there's this constant feeling that something is lurking. The game really makes you feel like you're not alone, like the walls themselves are watching you. It's a level of immersion that's honestly hard to pull off, but Ad Infinitum nails it. Set against the backdrop of World War I, the game dives into some pretty intense themes, and it does so with a lot of respect and depth. It's not just about spooky monsters or things that go bump in the night. It's about the horrors of war and the toll it takes on the mind. The protagonist, a soldier haunted by his past, has these surreal and nightmarish visions, and you're right there with him, trying to make sense of what's real and what's not. And let me tell you, there's something deeply unsettling about a horror game that's rooted in real historical trauma. It makes the fear feel so much more personal. Just when you think you've got a handle on what's going on, the game throws you a curveball. You'll be exploring, thinking you're safe, and suddenly you're face to face with something that makes your heart skip a beat. It's not predictable, and that unpredictability keeps you glued to the screen. Empire of Ants. It's like stepping into the world of ants, but with the added bonus of strategy and exploration. You're an ant. And no, this isn't some quirky survival game where you dodge giant raindrops and birds. This is about building a full-blown ant empire. You're managing colonies, gathering resources, and battling threats, all while appreciating the surprisingly intricate lives of these tiny creatures. I'll admit I didn't expect to feel this invested in ant society, but here we are. The game does an amazing job of making you feel like a part of this mini-world. The environments are lush, detailed, and just stunning to look at. Everything is scaled to make you feel appropriately small, towering blades of grass, massive puddles, and terrifying predators that loom over your little army. The gameplay itself is a mix of strategy and resource management, but it's not overwhelming. You're tasked with expanding your colony, which means deciding where to send your workers, what to build, and when to defend your turf. It's one of those games where every decision matters, but it's also forgiving enough to let you learn as you go. I've had moments where I'm like, okay, I've got this, only to realize I didn't assign enough ants to foraging, and suddenly, everyone's hungry. Lesson learned. What I really love is how alive the colony feels. Every ant has a purpose. Some are gathering food, some are defending the nest, and others are just doing their ant thing. It's unique, engaging, and oddly addictive. Mount and Blade 2. This isn't just a typical RPG or strategy game. It's like living out your own medieval fantasy. You start off as a humble character, but from the get-go, you feel like you're on this epic journey to carve out your destiny in a sprawling world filled with kingdoms, clans, and armies. One of the best parts? You're in full control of how you want to play. You could be a mercenary for hire, a fearless warrior leading your own band of soldiers, or even a shrewd trader moving goods across the land. There's so much freedom to just pick a path that feels right for you, and the game fully supports it, no matter what direction you take. The battles are where it gets really intense. You're not just watching the action, you're in the thick of it, swinging swords, firing arrows, and commanding your troops. And these battles are huge. You're part of these massive, chaotic skirmishes, and it feels like you're in the middle of an actual medieval battlefield. But Bannerlord isn't just about fighting. It's also about strategy. You're managing everything from your troops to your resources, deciding when to take risk or play it safe. Building alliances and managing relationships with different lords and factions adds this extra layer that makes it feel like a medieval version of Game of Thrones. Every decision you make, every alliance, and even every slight against another lord has consequences. One thing I love is the world itself. It feels alive. Villages and cities grow. People have their own lives. And you're part of this bigger world that moves forward. Genshin Impact. This game opens up a huge, vibrant world packed with breathtaking landscapes, lively towns, and plenty of secrets waiting to be found. It's a place that invites you to explore at your own pace, whether that means climbing towering mountains, gliding through the air, or diving into hidden caves. The world feels alive, full of things to discover, and challenges around every corner. Combat here is smooth and engaging, blending fast-paced action with clever elemental mechanics. You switch between characters on the fly, each with their own unique abilities tied to elements like fire, water, or wind. Combining these elements in battle creates satisfying reactions that add layers of strategy without ever slowing down the flow. It's not just about hitting buttons. It's about timing and creativity. Characters themselves are a huge part of the fun. There's a wide roster with distinct personalities and playstyles, so swapping your team members and experimenting with their skills feels fresh. Whether you prefer close-range swordplay or long-distance magic, there's something for everyone, and upgrading your characters adds a rewarding sense of progression. Exploration and quests encourage a mix of adventure and story, with plenty of side missions that keep the world feeling dynamic. Hidden treasures, puzzles, and world events pop up regularly, giving reasons to keep roaming around. Tales of Arise. From the moment you jump in, it feels like the start of an epic road trip. Except instead of a car, you've got a team of incredible characters, and instead of highways, you're trekking through lush landscapes and fantastical settings. It's a game that constantly encourages you to explore, fight, and grow stronger, all while keeping you invested in the journey. Forget slow, turn-based action. This is fast, fluid, and downright addictive. So you've got combos, flashy skills, and an entire party of characters with unique fighting styles to experiment with. The game doesn't just let you button mash your way through. It rewards you for learning the rhythm of attacks, dodging at just the right moment, and timing your skills perfectly. Pulling off a massive combo or chaining abilities with your party feels incredible every time. Speaking of the party, the characters in Tales of Arise are such a highlight. Each one feels distinct, both in how they fight and how they interact. This isn't one of those games where your companions feel like accessories. They're integral to everything. They're constantly bantering, chiming in during fights, or offering insights as you explore. Exploration is another area where Tales of Arise shines. Whether you're diving into caves, trekking through forests, or wandering vast fields, the game makes every area feel worth your time. There's a sense of discovery in every corner, hidden treasure, optional fights, and even moments where the scenery alone makes you stop and take it all in. Chorus. From the moment you boot it up, you're hit with this stunning universe full of swirling nebulae, glowing space stations, and massive starships that make you feel tiny in the best way. You play as Nara, a starfighter pilot with a mysterious past, and your ship, Forsaken, is your partner in crime, or redemption, depending on how you look at it. The dogfighting is where Chorus shines. It's not just about shooting lasers at enemy ships, although you'll do plenty of that, and it feels amazing. It's about speed, precision, and pulling off these crazy, physics-defying moves that make you feel like an absolute ace. There's this one move where you can drift in space, spinning your ship around to take out enemies while still zipping forward, and every time I pulled it off, I felt like the coolest person alive. The controls are tight and intuitive, but they also make you work for it. You're not going to master the advanced maneuvers right away, and that's part of the fun. There's this awesome sense of progression as you get better and start chaining moves together in combat. By the time you really hit your stride, you're taking on waves of enemies like a one-person fleet, and it's so satisfying. Another thing I love about Chorus is how it gives you a sense of freedom. The game isn't open world in the traditional sense, but there are these beautifully designed areas you can explore between missions. Whether it's helping out stranded civilians, uncovering secrets, or just flying around to soak in the scenery, there's always something to do. Little Hope. It's a part of the Dark Pictures Anthology, which means you're in for a cinematic, choice-driven adventure where every decision you make carries weight. Little Hope is all about putting you in control of a group of characters as they navigate a series of increasingly strange and spine-tingling situations. But this isn't just about surviving, it's about figuring things out. It's like the game wants you to put on your detective hat while simultaneously making sure you're on edge the entire time. Every step forward feels like peeling back a layer of mystery, and trust me, it's not always what you expect. Every dialogue option, every quick decision, and even the times when you hesitate all matter. The game is basically keeping score, and your decisions ripple through the story in ways that can catch you off guard. It's not just about staying alive, it's about shaping the narrative in real time. And yes, that can lead to some wild, unpredictable outcomes, whether it's a life-or-death moment or just something small that changes the dynamic between characters. You'll find yourself gripping your controller like your life depends on it. The game keeps you on your toes, making sure you're always paying attention. Miss a single beat, and things can take a dramatic turn. But that's part of the fun, right? One of the coolest things about Little Hope is how it encourages replayability. It's like the game is daring you to go back and make different choices, just to see what would happen. What if you'd sided with someone else? What if you'd acted differently during a tense moment? Every playthrough feels fresh. Styx Shards of Darkness. It's such a hidden gem when it comes to stealth games. Honestly, if you love sneaking around, outsmarting enemies, and pulling off clever heists, this game is right up your alley. What's cool is that you're not playing as your typical hero. Instead, you're this sarcastic, foul-mouthed goblin named Styx, and he's absolutely hilarious. One of the things that grabbed me right away was Styx himself. I mean, how often do you get to play as a goblin in a video game? And he's not your typical grumpy fantasy character either. Styx has this great sense of humor, breaking the fourth wall sometimes and just having a blast with the whole sneaky thief thing. I found myself laughing at his one-liners way more than I expected. The stealth mechanics are where this game really shines. You're constantly sneaking around, hiding in shadows, and using the environment to outsmart guards. It's not a game where you can just rush in, and that's what makes it so satisfying. You've got to think about every move, and when you pull off a perfect stealth takedown, or get past a bunch of guards without being spotted, it feels amazing. What I love, though, is how creative you can get with your tactics. Styx has all these abilities, like cloning himself or going invisible, and it really lets you play around with different strategies. I'd be sneaking through a heavily guarded area and use a clone to distract the guards while I slipped by unnoticed. It makes you feel like a genius when it works out. And the level design is just so good. The environments are big, with tons of verticality, hidden paths, and places to explore. Psychonauts 2. It's the kind of game that takes everything you think you know about how games work and flips it on its head. Every step you take in this game feels like entering a world that's completely its own, full of imagination and creativity that you don't see every day. At its core, Psychonauts 2 is about exploring minds. Yes, minds. Your job is to delve into people's brains, unravel their mental struggles, and set things right. But this isn't a grim or heavy game. It's hilarious, playful, and filled with moments that'll leave you shaking your head, thinking, did they really just do that? The big draw here is the level design. When I say the levels in Psychonauts 2 are unlike anything you've seen, I mean it. Each mind you explore is a reflection of the person it belongs to, so no two areas are alike. One minute, you're walking through a metaphorical manifestation of someone's deepest fears. The next, you're running around a mind that looks like a neon-soaked dreamscape. It's like every level is its own self-contained world, with mechanics and themes tailored to that specific character's psyche. And let me just say, Psychonauts 2 nails the balance between being weird and being accessible. Sure, it's wild and over the top, but it always gives you the tools you need to navigate its craziness. You'll get access to a bunch of psychic abilities like telekinesis, pyrokinesis, and levitation, and each one feels useful and fun in its own way. Exploration in Psychonauts 2 is also a treat. Vampire. It's one of those titles where you go in expecting a typical vampire action game, but it turns out to be so much deeper than that. It's got this dark, moody atmosphere that just pulls you in right from the start. You play as Dr. Jonathan Reed, this dude who's a respected doctor, but also just became a vampire. So, right off the bat, you're hit with this major moral conflict. He's a healer, but now he's cursed with this bloodlust. It's such a cool dynamic because you're constantly torn between doing what's right and giving in to your vampire instincts. I don't know about you, but I loved the tension that creates in the gameplay. Every time you meet someone, you're like, do I help them or do I eat them? That's one of the most interesting parts of the game, the choice to feed or not. The more you feed on people, the stronger you get, but it comes with some serious consequences. The game doesn't just let you be a monster without repercussions. If you kill too many civilians, whole districts can fall into chaos, and you end up ruining your own world. But then again, if you don't feed, you're weaker, and the game becomes more challenging. I remember thinking, man, do I really want to sacrifice this person for a quick power boost? It really makes you consider every move. The combat is actually pretty fun too. It's got that hack and slash feel, but with some cool vampire powers thrown in. It's got that perfect mix of action, storytelling, and moral dilemmas that keep you hooked. Plus, who doesn't want to live out their vampire fantasy, right? Gotham Knights. It's all about stepping into the boots of Gotham's protectors in a city that feels alive with danger and opportunity. The game puts you in the shoes of 4 iconic characters, Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and Red Hood, all with their own distinct styles, abilities, and combat approaches. The combat system in this game is where the fun kicks in. Each character plays completely differently, and the combat is fluid, punchy, and satisfying. Nightwing brings acrobatic finesse, Batgirl offers technical precision, Robin brings stealth and gadgets, and Red Hood has brute force and ranged expertise. Swapping between them feels like jumping into a whole new playstyle, which keeps things fresh, no matter how long you play. The upgrade system adds another layer, letting you tweak and enhance your character to suit your preferences. Exploration is a big part of the game, and Gotham itself is a sprawling playground. The city isn't just a backdrop. It's a living, breathing space filled with activities, side missions, and hidden challenges. Gliding across rooftops or speeding through streets on a sleek Batcycle never gets old. It's not just about fighting crime. It's about immersing yourself in Gotham's gritty world and uncovering its secrets. It's a commitment to justice, action, and incredible storytelling. When it goes on sale, the discounts are just enough to feel like you've outsmarted the system. You can often find deals on major online gaming platforms or during seasonal events. Abzu. It's not like your typical game with enemies and objectives. You're just kind of existing, exploring. It's such a calming experience, you know? Well, the whole game is about diving into this beautiful underwater world, and I can't even explain how peaceful it feels. I remember the first time I booted it up. I was expecting something more traditional, but then you're just dropped into the water, and it's like, wow, the ocean in this game is seriously gorgeous. The art style, the colors, everything just pulls you in. You start swimming, and you can't help but just relax and enjoy the ride. It's almost like meditating. What really hit me was how connected I felt to the ocean. I know that sounds weird, but hear me out. As you explore, you interact with all kinds of marine life, from little fish to massive creatures. And it's not just about observing them. It feels like you're part of this underwater ecosystem. There's this sense of wonder and discovery that's hard to find in other games. I feel like the game is also about letting go of the need to constantly do something, you know? There's no rush, no time limit. It's just you, the ocean, and the journey. And honestly, that was refreshing. I usually play more intense games, but this game gave me this sense of calm that I didn't know I needed. There are moments where you'll be swimming, and something breathtaking happens. I don't want to spoil anything, but there are a few sequences that made me stop and say, wow. Like, it's one of those games where you'll pause just to take in the scenery. It's that beautiful. As dusk falls. This game isn't about flashy action or complex mechanics. It's about choices, ones that stick with you long after you've made them. As Dusk Falls invites you into a world where every decision has weight, every conversation matters, and every moment feels deeply personal. It's not just a game, it's an experience that challenges you to think about your actions and their consequences in a ways most games don't. The gameplay is centered around interactivity and storytelling. It's not about mastering difficult controls or fast reflexes. Instead, it's about navigating a web of choices that shape the narrative as you play. You aren't just watching events unfold, you're actively steering them. The game thrives on its ability to make you second guess, to wonder if what you did was the right call, or if there even was a right call to begin with. Quick decisions and thoughtful planning play equally important roles. Some moments push you to react in the heat of the moment, while others give you time to deliberate. This balance keeps the pacing engaging without ever feeling overwhelming. The game ensures that your choices are more than just binary yes or no answers. Each one feels layered, carrying implications that ripple outward into unexpected outcomes. The branching paths in As Dusk Falls are where the magic truly happens. It's not just about reaching an end, it's about how you get there. Every choice you make carves a unique path through the story. Mars attracts. Instead of running a traditional theme park, players are in charge of an amusement park designed specifically for Martians. The main attraction isn't roller coasters or Ferris wheels. It's abducted humans. The core of the gameplay revolves around building and managing a park that caters to Martian guests. There are different attractions to construct, staff to hire, and visitor needs to manage. Everything is designed to keep the Martians entertained while making sure the abducted humans stay contained. Balancing both sides is what makes the game interesting. There's a lot of freedom in designing different attractions and optimizing the park layout to maximize enjoyment for the visitors. Keeping the park fresh and exciting ensures a steady flow of Martian guests and revenue. One of the biggest challenges comes from managing the human exhibits. Unlike traditional park attractions, they have needs and might not always cooperate. If not handled properly, they could escape, creating problems that need to be dealt with quickly. This adds an extra layer of strategy to the game, making sure that both the visitors and the exhibits are accounted for. The setting itself brings new challenges not found in typical park management games. The Martian environment has hazards that impact park operations. Adapting to these conditions and finding ways to keep everything running smoothly is part of what keeps the experience engaging. The game captures the humor and charm of its inspiration. Deliver Us the Moon. It's a narrative-driven sci-fi thriller that's all about saving humanity. The Earth is in trouble, resources are gone, and humanity is on the brink. So naturally, what do? We look to the stars, and in this case, the moon. You're tasked with uncovering the mystery of a lunar base that's gone dark and figuring out what happened to a mission that was supposed to save the planet. Sounds simple, right? But let me tell you, it's anything but. You'll be fixing systems, figuring out how to progress through different areas, and piecing together what happened. It's more about problem solving than combat. And honestly, that's refreshing. Not every game needs to have an explosion every 5 minutes to keep you hooked. One thing I love is how interactive everything feels. You're not just running through corridors or pressing buttons at random. You're actually operating machinery, aligning satellites, and repairing systems in ways that feel grounded and realistic. It's immersive, and it keeps you engaged from start to finish. The game also does an amazing job of making you feel the stakes. Sure, it's set in space, but the issues it tackles, climate change, resource depletion, and humanity's survival, feel incredibly relevant. It's not just a game about saving the moon or even saving humanity. It's about making you think about how we got to this point and what we can do to prevent it. Another great thing? It's not overly long. You can experience the entire journey in a handful of hours, which means it doesn't overstay its welcome. Escape the Backrooms, a game that takes the internet's infamous urban legend and turns it into an unnervingly immersive survival experience. If you've ever heard about the Backrooms, those endless, yellow-tinted, eerily familiar yet disturbingly off-putting liminal spaces, then you already know this game is not messing around. At its core, Escape the Backrooms isn't just about wandering aimlessly through a strange environment. It's about working together, staying alert, and figuring out how to escape the madness. Every level is like its own twisted puzzle box, with new mechanics and challenges that force you to adapt and think on your feet. This isn't a game that holds your hand either. You're thrown in and expected to figure out the rules as you go. And trust me, the rules, they aren't always in your favor. What makes this game so unique is its unpredictability. Just when you think you've got the hang of it, the Backrooms throw something completely unexpected your way. 1 minute, you're carefully creeping through a corridor, and the next, you're scrambling to avoid something you'd really rather not get a closer look at. The tension is constant, but it's also what makes the game so thrilling. The cooperative aspect is a huge highlight here. If you play with friends, Escape the Backrooms becomes a whole new beast. You'll be strategizing, shouting directions, and sometimes panicking together as you try to navigate the labyrinthine levels. What's particularly clever about this game is how it uses its environment to mess with your head. Chivalry 2. It's one of those games that makes you feel like you're living out an epic battle scene from a medieval movie. Swords, shields, battle cries, it's all here. The first time I jumped in, I honestly didn't know what to expect. But within minutes, I was charging across a battlefield, screaming alongside other players, and it was just wild. The game really nails that feeling of being right in the middle of an all-out medieval brawl. And yeah, you might end up accidentally smacking a teammate. It happens. But that's just part of the chaos. What's cool is how each match has objectives, so it's not just a mindless hack and slash. You're pushing through enemy lines, defending castles, burning down villages. Each round feels like this mini-story playing out, where you really feel like you're fighting for your team. Sometimes it's about brute force, and other times it's about using strategy, whether you're sneaking around to flank the enemy or holding the line with your teammates. Plus, there are different classes to mess around with. If you're feeling like a tank, go for a knight with heavy armor and a big ol' shield. Want to be a sneaky archer who snipes from a distance? There's a class for that too. Each one brings a different flavor to the battle, and it's fun to mix things up and see what you like best. Personally, I love being the guy in the heavy armor with a huge hammer, just charging through crowds. And the best part? It never takes itself too seriously. You can tell the game is all about having a good time. It's chaotic, but in the best possible way, where every match feels like a blend of serious combat and just plain ridiculousness.